Welcome to ecotopiaU. I'm Melissa McGinnis, your host. I'm with my co-host, Tom Wright, and today we are discussing GMOs and the non-GMO project.
Yes.
This is a really fascinating topic, and I'm so glad that we're going to spend some time talking about it because I just want to kind of clear the air, let people really understand what GMOs are. I don't think that the definition has been defined for our general public.
Well, I think there's a organization called the IUPAC, which is a large organization you look up on the web, and they just refer to it as a process of inserting new genetic information into existing cells in order to modify a specific organism for the purpose of changing its characteristics. So what does that mean? Well, in layman's term, and not so much layman's term maybe, I'm going to describe a couple different types of genetically engineered plants or food product methodologies. So the one term is called transgenic. Transgenic means that you're adding something external to the corn genome to the corn genome. Okay, and then there's cisgenic, which means you found the trait in the corn genome and then you added it to the corn genome, and that's different than hybridization because genetic engineering is a mechanical process. Some people would even say a shotgun process about adding genetic material to the germplasm. So it's genetically engineered is an appropriate thing. Genetically modified organism is what GMO stands for.
Genetically modified organism.
Yes.
How long have we been doing this, modifying organisms?
Well, I think the first patent was given for the flavor saver tomato, and I can't remember, it's in the early 90s, if I remember right. I don't have that data right in front of me, but it's called flavor saver tomato, which is not on the market. There was also some genetically engineered bacteria that was patented earlier on that was for eating oil. And by the way, both those early patents, as far as I know, and I've read about this, that they don't neither product made it full-fledged market. They both died after they were introduced, slightly after they were introduced. So all the genetically engineered products that have come on the market, a lot of them have failed due to just they didn't work. The main products that people see now that are genetically modified are made from approximately 90% plus of all corn, soy, sugar beets, cotton, and canola, which is a type of rapeseed for oil, are made from genetically modified plants. And so most of the processed foods, because corn, soy, sugar beets, and canola, and even cottonseed oil you'll see in some processed foods. So not all food, in other words, you go into the aisle of the supermarket, and not all food is genetically engineered, but a lot of it is, and especially if the ingredients corn, soy, sugar, and canola. Now, one other distinction I want to make clear here is that, especially with corn and soy, it's not so much the food, the corn on the cob necessarily you're eating, but it could be. I want to be clear about that. But corn and soy are used a lot as animal feed, and so the animals are eating the genetically engineered corn and soy. That's more common than actually humans eating them directly. And it's also, soy is used for biodiesel, and corn is used for ethanol, and they're both subsidized. And so a significant part of the crops are used for energy, not for food consumption at all.
But if you were to buy a box of crackers and it says corn or soybean in the ingredients, it would be safe to assume that those are genetically modified ingredients?
That's the necessity of a seal that says otherwise, which is what the non-GMO Project Verified is all about.
Okay, why would a genetically modified ingredient or seed, why is it okay or not okay? What's the debate?
Wow. That's a rich subject. I mean, from a personal point of view, I'm a believer in a precautionary principle, which is states that if an action or policy has been suspected of risk causing any severe harm to the public domain, affecting general health or environmental, issues, the action should not be taken in the absence of scientific near certainty about its safety. And the burden of proof should be on the inventor to prove it's safe. And despite the claims of the genetic engineering industry, the main papers that are, no, in fact, when I researched this a few years back in 2005, there was 41 science papers about the safety of genetically engineered products. They were all written by the companies. They were all either written or the grant to write the report came from the companies that own the patents, the patent owners on the seed.
The ones that were developing
So it was an insight. It's an insight, and the FDA and the USDA just happily went wink, wink. Yes, this is enough precaution. I also should mention that what's kind of interesting is that despite all the news about patenting this and patenting that for life, that patents in themselves, again, this is my personal perception. I don't want to make it sound like this is something for the audience to research themselves, really. I don't think the intention of patents was the novelty of plants. The novelty of plants. In other words, just by switching a gene out, I can get a patent. But a patent is very powerful in terms of monopolistic power that it gives the owner. So I think the patenting of life forms it itself, I think, is insidious. I think it's slightly bogus. I think that's a controversy that even the proponents of non-GMO don't even touch enough, from my point of view. The other thing I'd like is the two main successes, quote unquote, if you want to call them that, of the crops is, one is to put a pesticide inside the plant. It's so that you don't have to add pesticides to the crop. The plant actually grows with a pesticide, the BT, and of course the irony is, and you know this, Melissa, I come out of the organic food industry, so I find that adding pesticide to something not a good idea. And so I find that if the pesticide's in the plant, doesn't it persist? And of course the answer is yes. Of course it does persist into the food products, and that means it persists to the animal too that eats it. Then the second use of the patents are herbicide resistance. What the euphemism, the brand is called Roundup. Roundup Ready is a euphemism, but glyphosate's the actual chemical molecule, and glyphosate, I believe, is a persistent molecule. And I think you've learned some things about glyphosate recently too yourself.
Yes, just on the 23rd of December this year, a report came out from
Again,
MIT.
just to be clear, so you understand that they're growing corn and soy and sugar and canola, and they grow it in a field, and then they come and spray it. And the characteristic of what they want from the canola, et cetera, the oil from the canola, it doesn't harm, quote unquote, the yield of canola. But the field and the plants are laden with this glyphosate. And so again, it's not gonna, when you go to press the seed for the oil, it's not gonna be all gone. There's gonna be some glyphosate left over. Go ahead.
Yeah. Apparently glyphosate is abundant, and
now it is.
Yes. And the report that came out from MIT earlier this month suggests that it's very much so linked to autism, and that the unfortunate rate of autism in children will be 1 in 2 by 2025. Children will have autism, and again, they can't make the direct link, but the correlation is too strong to ignore. I'm a little confused to why they're spraying herbicides on a crop that they created to be herbicide resistant or not need of herbicide.
But herbicide resistant means it can handle having an herbicide sprayed on it, and you don't lose the cropness of it. The leaves die off.
Got it.
Okay. So.
But why would we?
And this also means that the weeds that are growing in between the crop die off too. So you get the.
In traditional farming, without a GMO and without even herbicide, do we really need that many herbicides?
Again, as somebody who believes in the principles of organic agriculture, I don't think so. I mean, I think that it's overstated that the fields are more productive. It's just not true. They're more productive if you believe in monoculture. In other words, if I do 1,000 acres of only corn, but I don't believe in that. I believe you should have biodiverse crop rotation and companion plant rotation and things like that. So your field isn't 1,000 acres of corn. It may be 700 acres of corn, but there's 300 acres of other stuff, and then you've done it on purpose because you want biodiversity, and biodiversity helps prevent the need for external inputs.
So back just a minute to how these seeds are being created. they're literally injecting the seed with a pesticide, with a chemical that's proven to not be good for us.
They're giving it a trait. Yes, go ahead.
And then on top of that, they're spraying it with more.
Well, these are I'm just saying these are the two main avenues of genetically engineered crops. There is a stacked where corn right now is on the market, and again, the audience can look up stacked GMO corn or GE corn and find the issue. And it's just this last season it came on the market for the first time, largely.
And it's the promise of GMO is higher yields. And what else?
Well, higher yield and actually they want to say less chemistry, but it's not been true because what you find is the weeds that they're trying to kill become herbicide resistant. And the audience can look this up too. They're changing strategy of not to use glyphosate, so now they're going to use a cousin of Agent Orange, which of course is famous for
killing people
in Vietnam. Yeah.
How is this possible? I mean, I know you don't have the answer, but truly, how would it be possible to continue to use these proven deadly ingredients?
I do believe that GM food itself is kind of an abomination of food safety laws in the United States and Europe, which I think are where the thought process of all this engineering comes from, is those two main areas of the world, and the demise of the precautionary principle. I think that the fact that the burden should be put on the inventor to show it's really safe, and in the case of genetically engineered stuff, it probably is a tough gig to pull off if you have to prove it that it's safe, because you probably, 10 years of testing, 15 years of testing.
How long yes.
Yeah, I'm just saying, you've got to have a number of years of testing to prove it's safe. And so without the burden of proving it's safe and the wink in Washington, D.C. between the politicians and a revolving door between the USDA and the FDA and the patent owners, the people that own the patents on these life forms, the fact that they're in bed with each other, that's something, again, you can look up and read about, and the genetically engineered companies aren't saying that they're executive in government and vice versa. They're not saying that, but my goodness, isn't that kind of obvious that there's something else going on there? Why are they having to do such power leverage things to make sure their stuff gets passed without any sort of precaution, without any sort of testing? And the general public, I think, is being harmed because it isn't something we need. I really disagree with the premise that we need more food, for instance. I mean, approximately 50% of all food in the United States is wasted.
But wasn't there an instance in India where the crops did not produce a higher yield?
Yes, of course. Oh, no, there's all sorts of... No, that's... By the way, the yield thing is always based on a monoculture perspective, which, again, regenerative agriculturalists, organic agriculturalists sort of, even to the point of scoffing at, that's not good agriculture. You want biodiverse agriculture, okay? You don't want to have one crop on 1,000 acres by itself. You want to have biodiverse agriculture. And even some people, like biodynamic people, which is a kind of a beyond organic perspective, they believe you need hooved beasts on your acreage, okay?
Pound the ground and fertilize it.
Fertilize it is actually the main thing that they're looking for. Mm-hmm. And so there's these ideologies, and when you do it mathematically, it's not about more yield per se, because it's yield of a monoculture. But not yield of biomass, not yield of actually plant matter.
Or yield of nutrition.
Yes, yield of nutrition.
It'd be better to eat one peach versus 20.
Correct. And nutrition in the soil would be another statistic that I wish we could have as a norm at the supermarket. Your produce came from nutrient-rich soil.
That's not sprayed with a known cancer-causing...
That would be an interesting piece of information, wouldn't it?
Yes.
In Europe, there's a website you can go to, folks. It's called natureandmore.com. It's European-based, even though it's in English, and you can go to the website there, natureandmore.com, and you can realize that you can, if you're in part of their system, you can take your piece of produce and you can actually go to the website and find out the farming methodology of that piece of produce.
Oh.
And so that's a different way of looking at how to solve this system rather than genetically engineering. I think we need more information. Not less information.
Have there been any countries that have banned GMOs?
Well, there's 40-odd some that have some sort of regulation, yes. Yeah, I'd have to.
What
look
would
that
a
up.
regulation be?
Well, they either, for instance, China has banned GMO corn coming in right now. That's true. There's a ban right now, but I'd have to look that up. I mean, to find out who actually
So,
has actual.
but other
out-and-out
countries
bans.
are making a stand saying it hasn't proven to be safe yet.
Correct, and there is labeling laws in 40 odd some countries.
And as a consumer, you should have the ability to
in
choose
the,
if you want this
in
or
the
not.
EU, there is a labeling law, and so the EU has a labeling law that has but of course the GMO the patent owners don't want any labeling because they're quote unquote significant. Let me get this phrase right. There's substantial equivalent. That's what they're saying. Now this is what you have to hear, folks. Here people are saying they're substantially equivalent, yet they get a patent. Now, a patent shows novelty or distinction. So how are they getting a patent if they're substantially equivalent? You can't have it both ways.
Right.
So there's a bit of a fraud and a fake and a wink amongst politicians and patent lawyers and this rotating. It's suspect. If you were a detective, you'd want to find out where the bodies lie. You'd want to
And
see
your
what's
point
going
is
on.
it's a living organism. Are you allowed to patent a living organism?
I think that's questionable to begin with. Mm-hmm. I mean, just novelty. Shouldn't you improve something? And shouldn't it be again? You should be able to show you improve something. And the better mousetrap is your typical image of a patent.
Well, what blows my mind is that they're injecting the seed with a pesticide, with a chemical, something that's not good for you.
It's a trait that that expresses the chemical.
And then it's grown into every cell. It's unavoidable. And then it's sprayed with a toxic herbicide, which has been shown from MIT, which it's not you and I making the investigation, but an MIT professor with incredible credentials has highly suggested that it's linked to autism, which is growing at a tremendous rate.
Yeah,
and yet we don't know if we're eating them or not.
Not only that, in the United States there isn't labeling because the folks that are the patent owners, they obviously are fearful of basically the warning symbol being looked at as skull and crossbones. Now, having said that, that's why I'm a proponent of the non-GMO Project verified seal, which is a multicolor butterfly is the seal that you'll see the non-GMO Project verified. And in particular, if you're buying something that's corn or soy or canola, that's a very pertinent seal because that's from the small percentage of those crops that aren't GMO. Mm-hmm. So that's the language we use is clean. The standard that the non-GMO Project uses is very much parallels the EU standard. So the testing methodology is a kind of a globally accepted methodology. And again, it's non-GMOproject.org is their website.
Which what they do is they investigate the farms. They make sure that
the brand owners, if you're Nature's Path, which is a famous brand in the organic food industry, if you're Nature's Path, you go to the non-GMO Project to make sure you have clean streams, especially those main things that might be contaminated. We're called high risk. So corn, soy, and canola. And to make sure you're clean there, and then you get the seal to use as a marketing tool.
It's not easy to get the seal. They really do their work,
correct,
and they really investigate.
Correct.
And I think that it's so important that we have this verification. If not, we'd be just a muck.
It's very, I'm going to mention some brands' names here, a little bit to pick on them, a little bit to have some fun. But Whole Foods Market has been a pioneer in this, and Whole Foods Market Private Label 365 has many non-GMO Project verified butterflies on their products. I don't think I've seen one at Trader Joe's. I don't think I've seen one on the O brand at Safeway. And I think
so. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's non-GMO.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, it should imply that. But the truth of the matter is that one of the scary things, especially about things that canola and corn in particular, the way they pollinate is it can be blown in the air.
Exactly. That's what is, just unbelievable to me is that this actually can corrupt organic farms.
Correct.
Because of the pollination.
Yeah.
So the only way to know for sure is through the non-GMO.
Yeah, non-GMO. I mean, there's obviously, again, a person can research what are low risks. In other words, they shouldn't have any genetic engineering done to the crop. Tomatoes, for instance, heirloom tomatoes should be very safe, okay? But something like papaya, not so safe. Something like zucchini, maybe not so safe. But for the most part, anybody can look up the list on the web of what's been approved or not approved. Greenpeace has some very good videos about the issues themselves. If you go to their website, you can, in fact, one of them is basically is genetic engineering a scam, and I haven't quite said that, but it's a provocative way to frame it. What I'm saying is that it's not. I'm not saying it's a scam, but what I'm saying is that if you're going to bring in something that makes the public an experiment, shouldn't there be some worry there? If people, I think people know about nuclear bomb experiments that happen in the desert and in atolls in the South Pacific. And the general public was in danger, and indeed there's high cancer rates amongst the general public that were exposed to those radioactive explosions, right? We would never do those again. We know better, right?
But we're doing it through our food supply.
No, this is a different type of poison, if you will, or a different type of toxin. Toxin may be a better word than poison.
We're literally poisoning our food supply, but we're just, through the experiment, trying to see, how much can we get away with?
That's what it feels like.
We can do this much. That's killing people. But if we do this much, we might be a little bit safer. Wouldn't the public be outraged that we're part of the experiment?
Isn't that a funny way you just said that? A little bit safer. What is that little bit?
I don't really know.
I know. That's what's.
Cancer rate is up 40% in the last 10 years. This autism study from MIT is truly outrageous. Yeah. She literally directs the link between autism and GMO. Through what's the chemical? Glyphosate. I think the public should be outraged.
Yep. Yeah, I think the fact that there isn't more transparency and why, the way I joke, of course, everybody knows that Monsanto is one of the main procurers of genetically engineered material and of seed. And I've always used the reference point of since it's seed, right, that in essence the crop is Monsanto's children. So it's kind of like, why doesn't Uncle Monsanto want you to know the names of his children? There's this lack of transparency. It's like, no, it's a secret. Well, no, it's not a secret. You should want if you're so proud of what you invented, you should want people to know about it. And so that just that transparency, so that the buying public has a right to know. And
the benefit for Monsanto would be creating a monopoly?
Well, that's what a patent is.
Is that what they're going for?
Yes, that's what a patent is by definition, sure. It's a hook. If you're a farmer, and remember that part of the dynamic is industrial farming has gotten way big. In the sense that there's so few farmers. I met a gentleman who farms 10,000 acres. And I don't mean he has 10,000 acres and farms with a bunch of other people. I mean he farms it himself. And it's just corn and soy, and he uses a tractor, and he likes riding his tractor. He's got he showed me pictures. He's got a stereo. He listens to ball games. He got a little TV set. Anyway, he farms 10,000 acres by himself. That's how mechanized this stuff has become. And so my point being is that it's hard, I think, for consumers to understand that the part of the dynamic is the cheapness is done through this kind of a monoculture system, with subsidies, because part of that corn and soy crop he's getting energy subsidies for. It's going to be biodiesel, it's going to be ethanol, which he's getting another check for that.
But the soil's being depleted through the herbicides.
It has to be.
And at some point it'll stop producing.
If you're not making it if you're not adding nutrients, what are you doing? It's really that simple.
You're depleting it, and then it causes runoff into the rivers and streams, and now the fish have all of the chemicals, and that's our drinking water. We're trying to literally extinct ourselves, or Monsanto is trying to extinct us.
No, you better watch. No, we don't want to say that. But the concept you bring up has a fancy term. It's called devolution or de-evolution. And that the industrial chemicals, boys' sperm counts are down, and are they? The tough thing to do in science is correlate stuff directly. There's correlatable data. In other words, sperm counts are down, and these things have been consumed over the last 30 years by our public that weren't consumed before that. So you can correlate them, but are they direct correlation? Probably not. So it's tough in science to prove the link, the direct link of this thing caused this other thing. That's a very hard thing to prove most of the time.
Intuitively, no, though. Intuitively, I think if you really sat back, I think you could find the correlation. And that's what I would suggest for all of our viewers to do, is to listen, to this podcast or watch this show, but then go do your own research and find out on your own. I'm going to put the link to that MIT report on our website, but join the conversation. We'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on GMOs, and in terms of activating our viewers.
Well, I think I do shop non-GMO project verified stuff, and tell people, especially people who want to promote organic foods and organic brands, that they need, especially if they're dealing with these high risk corn, soy, sugar beets, canola. In fact, if you see cottonseed oil on a product, chances that it is not non-GMO are pretty close to zilch. So you really do have to just be clear that you would prefer a third-party verified source. That's the way to say it, and that's the non-GMO Project Verified. And that's a colorful butterfly. It's pretty easy to identify.
And applaud the brands that are going through the painstaking,
Yes.
painful process to be verified, but also to find product that is not GMO.
And then start to engage farmers on the shift, because the market is growing, okay? So it's about 15% to 20% per year the market is growing for non-GMO Project Verified certification. So they're finding more and more farmers. There's corn farmers retreating, especially from the Roundup Ready corns, and that really is, there's a movement. Again, you can find press releases about that. It's news. It's not.
When you shop at your farmer's market, sometimes they have we don't use pesticides or herbicides on these vegetables, but they're not certified organic. Would that apply to a GMO claim as well?
No, I mean, you're raising a very good point for customers and consumers, that a lot of claims at certain levels are not verifiable or verified. And I'm one of those older guys that when I got into the organic food industry, long before genetic engineering was our issue, the issue was who was certifying the crop as, and we used to have in the produce sections, we called them Bibles. And they were basically binders with the plastic sleeves with somebody put a piece of paper in there that it showed the growing methodology, and then it would have a signature at the bottom, and you'd ask whose signature it was. It was the guy's next door neighbor, which could have been his cousin or his uncle. So we moved a long way since the late 70s now to where we have actually third-party certifiers. And this is really pertinent to the transparency and integrity of the claim. And so I do think that organic industry, natural products industry, people that use a lot of corn, soy, canola, sugar beets in their product definitely should go through a non-GMO Project Verified third-party certification, and it'll help create more farmers. It adds value. The farmers actually make a little bit more money. Okay, obviously organic farmers make more money per acre than a chemical farmer. They also farm less acres, if people wonder how that math works. So it's very pertinent for the buying public. Can vote on this one. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I hope so, and I think we should follow up. We as consumers we deserve transparency, and we deserve to not be a part of this experiment. I think we should start something called opt out. I want to opt out of this experiment. I don't want to be a part of it.
Okay.
But join the discussion. Go to ecotopiaU.tv, and thanks for listening. Thanks, Tom, for some of this clarifying information, and we hope to hear from you.